down. And I wanted to end this wonderful conversation with what the exciting endeavor that you've been doing and what you have coming out for everyone, especially ABS students. You're going in deep.
Yeah. So I think, teaching where I felt that golf instruction lacked was in advanced techniques. That so much of golf instruction revolves around, grip stance and posture and this kind of basic stuff. And, a famous golf instructor, a good tour player will come in, he'll take a lesson and change one little thing here, and then they go out and win a tournament and they win a major, and then all of a sudden that teacher is the flavor of the year or whatever. But I always felt like the instruction for the advanced, it's a lot harder to get a guy that's a 3 handicap down to a +1.
Yeah.
A lot harder to do that. So that's kind of what I set out to do, was to teach, more the more advanced methodologies. So ultimately, over the years, I've been doing this quite a long time now, and of course, Ben Hogan, is always going to come up. Well, Hogan did this, Hogan did that. I mean, we all reference, the great Ben Hogan was, I'm sure, arguably the greatest striker that ever lived. People might say Mo, but I never really saw Mo shaping the ball. He was just hitting straight flush shots every time. Just as a shot maker and a player, I think Hogan, his record speaks for itself, right? And he's a great player. So everybody's got a theory on Hogan's secret, and all this sort of thing. And I'll tell you one thing for sure is that there was no one secret that Hogan did. I mean, because it actually is impossible for there to be one secret, because as soon as you do one thing, something else has to counter and change that, right?
Right.
There's an opposing force. If the wrist is here, if it's the cupped wrist, well, then you have to do something different to make that work, right?
Right.
So just the whole premise of a secret is just not correct.
Yeah.
I think his books are interesting, but they're very vague. There's a lot of kind of confusing things. A picture of Hogan like rolling his wrists, through the strike and something like that. But he didn't do that, hitting the ball.
Right.
I don't know. Some people think it's really cryptic, and he said this and meant this or whatever. But I kind of thought, well, I've seen so many different people over the years, try and teach Ben Hogan's technique, or just parts of it, or a couple little things. Oh, he lagged the club a lot, or he did this or that, but I've never really seen anybody do it any kind of justice at all, in my opinion. There's a lot of people on the internet, that have a Hogan's, secret program or whatever. But to my eye, my professional eye, my, reasonably trained eye, I don't think it's good. I don't think there's anything out there that's really good,
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, well, maybe I should just throw my hat in the ring and give my thoughts on it and see if I can maybe get a little closer to it. So if, I think somewhere Hogan mentioned that if he were to have written a proper instruction book, it would have been like 800 pages,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the little teasers and things, you have to remember too, that when he was writing those books, he was still playing. So, I mean,
Yeah.
he's not in that era, you're not going to be giving away your secrets to anybody.
Yeah. Sure.
I'm not saying it's secrets, but I mean, just he wouldn't give away the technique of what he was doing. Look, some people worked with him. He told Johnny Miller something. He told George Knudson a few things. The best way to understand it is to actually, you got to get inside that kind of swing. You got to actually get inside it. So I spent maybe the last, kind of when the ABS site kind of died out, I was sort of moving in that direction to try and take the deep dive into that and really, start to try and pick it apart and understand it. So I really worked on it quite a bit in the sort of lost years of the ABS. I was kind of deep diving into that, thinking, I'd do something with that. And so, understanding, what happens on the backswing. The thing with Hogan, it's not just anything goes. You have it's kind of a full package thing. You've got to, and it starts with the gear. It starts with the gear. You can't get to that Hogan kind of a swing with light clubs, whippy shafts, even offset on the clubs. You've got to start with heavier, stiff clubs. If you look at his early designs in his clubs, we're talking blade irons and pretty flat persimmon woods and stuff like that. That's what I think swinging the kind of clubs, getting into 15, 14, 15, 16-ounce driver, and how the body reacts to something that heavy, start working from there. So that's what I did. I built a prototype of a club that, from what I understand, would be pretty similar to what he would have had as a driver. So I actually made a 16-ounce driver, heavy, and flattened it to like 48 degrees. And then how that works around the body. So I'm a little taller than Hogan was. Hogan was what, 5'8", maybe?
Yeah.
5'8". I'm 6 feet tall. So, there's a 4-inch difference there in our height. So I have to, compensate for that. But what I don't want to give up is the flat angles from that he swung off. So we know his clubs are flat, they're heavy, his shafts were stiff. So we start there and then start working the club around the body in that way, and then transitioning the club. And I kind of came across it by accident, like how Hogan transitioned the club. And I never really understood it, before. And I was working on something else actually. And all of a sudden it was like, oh my gosh. Wow.
Wow.
I just realized what he did. And I'm not trying to like a sales pitch this thing, but no, I'm really being honest. It really was an incredible moment. And but there's two things that have to happen. That there's the way that he worked his arms and his hands through transition, and the way that he transferred his weight, and having the way those two counterbalance each other creates the way that he slotted the club. And it's completely different than like Sergio Garcia is doing it, or anyone that just lags the club a whole lot or whatever. The way the shaft flattens out, because he was actually taking pressure off the shaft at transition. And I was always trying to lag the club a lot. Was always pushing more pressure on the shaft to get the shaft to work towards the center. Change in direction, moves towards the center.
Sure.
Hogan, he often said, he would make that one comment like, well, whatever you think you think is right, do the opposite.
Yeah.
That would be a perfect example of that. And so then once, I understood that, the transition and how that worked, wow, pretty incredible. It's not my swing. I'm going to say that right now. My swing is something different. It's my swing. But working on the Hogan stuff, a lot of the stuff is commonality for sure, but the transition is different than what I'm teaching ABS students. It's a different animal, and it has to be handled different. And I can't say I've fully mastered it. I've mastered the transition. I would say I can repeat that. I can do it. I can do it every time. The problem is that what you're doing on the downswing needs to be countered post impact. Okay, and Hogan's rotation with his torso and his left shoulder was some of the fastest and strongest the game has ever seen.
Yeah.
But to match that up on the other side, and the forearm rotation and the strike it's a very athletic move. This isn't for the faint of heart. I
Hmm.
mean, I wish I had known this when I was 18, you
Yeah.
know, or 14. You know, I wish someone had showed me this when I was young, what I know now. But I'm in a 58-year-old body at the time of this recording, so the clock is ticking. I understand that. But I've made great understanding, and I've been able to execute it. And the times where I've given it the best that I can do with the rotation, matching it up with the transition, I've hit golf shots that have been just, I've never hit a golf ball like that. I mean,
Wow.
it is a different sound, you know. It is holding shaft flex, and when you bring a 16-ounce driver where you've taken stress off the shaft at transition and you bring it down and you rip the torso around and you're coming from that deep 430 line, and the way that he would transfer his weight to save his rotation for later, so it's a very late hit, you know, with the
Yeah.
rotation. And when I do that, and then and I hit a 16-ounce persimmon driver in the screws, yeah, it's something
Wow.
special. It really is. So it's really fun to explore, and I feel kind of a little bit of an obligation to put it out there to people that want to learn it, you know, because I know that people that are obsessed with, you know, Hogan and that kind of thing, and I have something for them that I think is quite a bit better than what is out there, you know. I don't think it's a huge market for that. I don't think there's you know, hundreds of thousands of people that want to swing like Ben Hogan, but I think there's some,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, and I think I can help them with that to get there. And for those that want to take the deep dive and do it. So that's one of the things that I'm going to be working on, you know, after we're just finishing up. I've reshot all the modules. I have just two more, the super slotting and module 9, which I'm just redoing. We had the first 8 all redone, so the ABS 2.0. But as soon as I finish that up, then that'll be the next thing that I'm going to do, is start shooting the Hogan program, and it'll basically what I'll do is I'm gonna identify the critical elements that I see. People's swings aren't going to look exactly like Ben Hogan, but they will look similar. You know,
Interesting.
everybody has their. You know, I'm not going to be focusing on so much how it looks at a dress or whatever. That, you know, that people, you know, it's not about looking like Hogan. It's about dynamics within the body to create what the shaft needs to do and swing the right kind of clubs to do it.
Wow.
And getting inside of that, and then it's kind of like I'm down inside a cave that no one's ever been in. And I'm like, I come out and it's like, you're not going to believe what I saw down there.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Because
Wow.
I really believe that the only way to really get inside it is you got to get inside that swing.
Yeah.
You have you got to get the body moving and really get inside it and understand the opposing forces and pressures, and what really makes it work. And I've been able to do that. I have a couple videos posted on YouTube where you can see how I'm transitioning the club. And I think I don't want to be arrogant, but I think it's about as good as I've seen anybody do it. You know, now post impact, I'm just simply not strong enough or fast enough. Plus, I'm a little taller, so because I'm 4 inches taller and I'm swinging 6-degree flat angles. I have to come up and out a little bit more than he did because I'm taller.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
have to, right?
Yeah.
So these are the kind of things where, you know, if somebody might say, oh, you know, your head's moving or whatever, it's coming up or whatever, but I have to because I'm 4 inches taller. But I'm coming down on the exact same 430 line and that deep entry that he did coming into the shot, and then I have to, you know, turn level and come up a little bit more than he would have. But a shorter person wouldn't have to, right? Somebody that's 5'8" or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to think that the Hogan kind of technique would just be limited to people that are, 5'8" and weigh 135 pounds and are built like a gymnast.
Yeah.
We can take these concepts on how the body moves and we can apply them to anybody of any size. So you could be working on, the Hogan technique for your body. Of course, it's going to come out looking a little different, it's going to be, you're going to see a lot of similarities for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, everybody's going to still have their own little swing, right? I mean, I'm going to promote a wide stance, for instance, right? So everybody would have that, right? I'm going to promote a flat backswing. Nobody's going to be up high over their head.
Right.
You're going to flatten the shaft, and you're going to transfer your weight, laterally, and you're going to delay the rotation, of your torso, and then how you rip out of it, your RPMs that you have post impact. Everybody's going to be different. You're going to be limited to how fast you can turn.
Sure.
And that's going to affect what the club shaft is doing and how it looks, right? But that's all strength and conditioning and age and all that. But that feeling of coming down in there, I can teach that to anybody. So it's really exciting. And I'm not saying I'm going to have it perfect, because the only person that can swing like Ben Hogan is Ben Hogan.
Yeah.
But I'm feeling like the instruction that I've seen out there, if we're talking 1 to 10, I feel like it's like the best stuff I'm seeing is like 3 or 4.
Yeah.
It's not very good. If I can maybe get it 8,
Yeah.
or 9, maybe there's a missing 10%, something that I'm missing, but I think I can get people a lot closer to it than what they have access to, because you don't get it from reading his books. If that was the case, everyone most of the people that would be reading Hogan's books would be swinging like Hogan.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point.
And you see, I see a lot of people you see a lot of swings that kind of look like, you'll see the grip and the setup, and a guy lags it a whole bit, but then you slow it down and he's just throwing his right arm at it, and the club face is just rolling over. Hogan didn't do that at all.
Yeah.
And that's the most critical part, is what's going through the strike. And that's what we do with ABS, with the module work, is we're very much along those lines of Hogan.
Yeah.
What is different with Hogan? What is different is the way he transitioned the club and the way that he transfers weight. It's different. It's different. I teach more of a Sneed squat, basically.
Sure.
Because it's easy, and sit in a chair. Everyone knows how to do that. That's pretty easy to take a sit, press down into the right leg, and and then transfer your weight. So it's like bounce and clear, like sit and transfer. But Hogan is different. It's a different thing. And then when I figured it out, it was just kind of, I mean, really, I don't know. I feel fortunate, really, to just, it was kind of an accident a little bit. And but you can see it on the couple of the Hogan videos. I've got the down the line shots and the transition. It's probably about as good as I'm going to be able to do it in my body. And I'm glad that I have that preserved for posterity in the future, because maybe YouTube will be around long after I'm gone. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
I actually kind of figured that out, that part of it, right? And then, the post impact, I've really figured that out too. I can't turn that fast,
Yeah.
Yeah. You're talking about the greatest of all time at the peak of his career.
Right.
And why again, I'll talk about Mac O'Grady for a second. I mean, Mac, his prime in the 80s or whatever, I mean, his post-impact pivot torso thrust, like so fast, right? I mean, it's so vicious going through it, holding shaft flex and all that. But I don't really see him teaching that to people.
Yeah.
And I don't really see Hogan talking about that either. And he talks about, accelerate, or that he felt like the fastest the club was moving was, 18 inches past the ball or something like that. Right?
Yeah.
Gary Player would talk about that. But how do you do that?
Yeah.
How do you train for that?
Right.
What do you do? How do you train this transition? How do you train the weight training? How do you do this? So I have drills and exercises and things that train it, because if I'm going to teach it, I'm going to show people how to do it, not just intellectually, not just say, oh, you need to flatten the shaft and
right.
Oh, well, that's, if I wrote a book, oh, do this and this and this, but you got to work at that stuff. So it's exciting. I'm looking forward to that. It's I was hoping to have it done by the end of this year, but it looks like things are a little bit behind schedule, but I'll get it done.
Yeah, sure. And then you'll you'll offer it as its own unique course in ABS.
Yeah, its own unique course. And for people, I don't expect a whole lot of people to do it, but there'll be some, and it'll be really fun to see, because I'm confident that I can teach it,
Yeah.
because I can do it, right? If I can show people, I mean, I can't possibly expect to teach teach it if I can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Of course.
I'm not an art fair teacher who's just going to say, well, I can't do it, but maybe you can do it or whatever. I want to be able to show that I can do it, and then it's important that a student has that belief too, that the teacher knows how to do it.
Well,
Right?
of course, of course.
At least they could at one time, right? I mean, Jackie Burke, 90 years old or whatever, he obviously can't swing like he did when it was 1955 or whatever.
Sure.
But to try and like I said, the clock is ticking. So the thing I've noticed with my body with getting older is that it takes me longer to warm up and loosen up, and get it just, I feel a little more stiff.
Sure. Oh yeah.
But once I'm loosened up, and then I feel like, I can still hit the ball as good as I ever hit it.
Sure.
Once I'm loosened up and,
Sure.
worked out a bit. So, yeah.
Well, John, I'm eternally grateful to you for seriously for what you've brought and what you continue to bring to the game of golf, and to have a methodology and a way for us to learn, a very simple way to learn. It's been a great journey with you and with Bradley, and those who are listening to this is the way I would recommend to go onto the site. Go just pick around the site, Advanced Ball Striking. Just see what people are talking about.
The site is incredible. I mean, we've got 50 gigabytes worth of material on there that compounded over, a decade, 12 years of just, I mean, there's so many interesting threads and just so many deep dives into so many parts of the game. And, Bradley Hughes has done, I think like 4,000 posts on there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there's so much stuff on there. It's really great. I mean, I forget all this stuff. I'll go visit an old thread and say, wow, I didn't even remember this stuff on there. You could spend months, years just going through that stuff. And the old Let's Talk Lags golf machine thread from iSeek that's on the site. We just had that taken off and put on our site, when it got shut down. So, yeah.
Well, I'm just thankful to you, and for me being a golf geek. If you're a golf geek, go on to advancedballstriking.com, because there's a lot of nuggets, and then there's a way to the ABS modules as well on Advanced Ball Striking. And then you're on YouTube, and what's your YouTube handle? Is it just Advanced Ball Striking?
John Erickson, I think.
Was it John Erickson? Okay. And then on Instagram, it's Advanced Ball Striking. That I do know.
Yeah.
Well, John, I can't thank you enough for coming on, pal. As always, it's always a pleasure and a gift to talk to you.
Looking forward to working with you and anyone else that wants to jump on board and improve their golf game. That's really what it's all about. I enjoy teaching. It's really a more noble cause than being a player. I can actually help people, where as a player, it's a narcissistic, self-indulgent experience. Sure. It's all about me and trying to beat everybody else. And so it feels good to give something back to the game that's given me so much.
And we're the grateful recipients of that, my friend.